looking, but we are good. A number of folks reached out. Yep, everything is all right. We just had a minor like I said, minor hiccup that we had to work out. So we are good and ready to roll. Let me say good morning to the bros in the studio, and I'll make it quick so we can get the show rolling. Hey, Debo, what's happening, fam?
I was a hiccup.
Yeah, you look
Not,
like
not
you.
not feeling myself right now. Just not feeling good at all this morning. Had a rough night. Didn't sleep well and overslept. To be honest, that's just what happened.
Well, you don't look well. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Um, and I'm all for people making sure that they straight and taking care of themselves. So hopefully you will do that today. What's happening, Carv? How you doing this morning, Jarvel? What's going on? Good, good, good. All right, family. So I'm gonna just go
You
ahead
thought
and
you was gonna slide that in though,
what?
Jarvel.
What?
I'm the same dude you was at yesterday. Don't forget about my suit was loud.
you know what?
Yeah, yeah.
You should probably wait till you 100%.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you get a
Look,
little reprieve right now.
Carvey said that'll be your best bet. to wait till you 100%. So for folks that don't know, yesterday in the afternoon we were doing the show,
If you missed the
and
afternoon show,
the,
they came for me.
yeah, you might want to go back and
And I won't
play.
even say they. Carvey
Yeah, I want to be.
came.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, Jermaine was a
No,
part of
now
the
he wants help. Now he wants help. He started. He said, because Jermaine wasn't sitting next to me. He was.
So either way, there was some ribbing going on about some clothing and some people getting numbers at a funeral and folks just being inappropriate. And so uh, it got it got a little got a little swangy up in here yesterday. And Carvey Carvey started it. What'd you say? It got noisy.
So he's keeping it going. He
Because
got noisy.
yesterday, Carmi said that the suit that Debo had on at Keon's funeral, it was a noisy suit. And it just it turned the whole first 20 minutes of the show upside down.
Into foolishness.
Debo ended up hearing about it. He came
They
in
came to my office door, knocked on and said, "Man, they tearing you up over there. You might want to go over there and try to defend yourself." And y'all had, for all intents and purposes, had moved on to a whole other subject. But when I got wind, really, Carvey. So okay, I see what's going on.
Did Jermaine add that part though? I think Jermaine added musical background to Debo's suit.
This is not
good. Depending on sitting sitting or standing, his suit was singing different songs. So it was singing They Luckett when he was sitting down. I mean, no, you brought it up, fam. I'm just trying to help the community understand in case they were not listening to the midweek flow yesterday. Some people they may not have heard it. So like I said, I'm not gonna belabor the point. I'm gonna move on since I didn't bring any of this up.
I appreciate that.
But I do want to tell you I lost like 2 pounds laughing yesterday.
Not appreciate, I appreciate.
Because water, just tears.
You lost some water weight?
Yes, I did. I needed to too. Tears. But all right, it's a lot going on. I got a guest in the 8 o'clock hour this morning. But let me start here because social media was on fire yesterday because of a situation going on over in the Wauwatosa School District. And some people, it seems, were aware that these conversations were happening in the background. Other members of the community got caught completely off guard. But if you're like tuning in and saying, Michelle, what you talking about? What's going on in Tulsa? Nothing ever goes on in Tulsa. The Wauwatosa School District has been looking at options about how they deal with and address a $4 million budget issue. It may potentially be as much as 8 million, according to some media outlets. But what basically it seems has happened is there is a new chief financial officer who, in carrying out his duties, stumbled upon an error, and they said they can't find um, any evidence of fraud or you know anything crazy that was going on, but that there was an accounting error or errors of some sort that led to the former chief financial officer making a $4 million budget mistake. Wauwatosa is not a big school district. And so when you have that kind of an issue going on, then it creates a real problem for the district. So at a school board meeting, which happened on Monday night, there was talk about how they were going to address this $4 million budget shortfall. And, people talked about, what they needed to do to be able to regain the community's trust, because community members came and they was hot because they're trying to figure out, how did this happen? How did we get here? And more importantly, how do we fix it? As the board is working to correct the error, though, some at the meeting, and I'm taking this from an article, were calling on the district to have an independent source look at its financials just about 2 months before voters decide on a referendum. Here we go again, on a referendum to give Tulsa schools $16.1 million every year for 4 years. So that ends up being roughly about 64, almost $65 million in terms of a referendum spread out over the course of 4 years. So they're saying now we need an auditor, an external auditor, to really take a look at the numbers so we can trust from an outside source what that looks like. Think about the situation, okay? Because here's Tulsa. They got referendum on the ballot, trying to figure out if they can give money to the school district in Tulsa. They are having financial challenges. Then you find out the budget that we're working from isn't even accurate. We actually are off by 4 million in the negative. And I think about NPS and all the work that was done to sell the community on why this referendum was so important, when a number of people knew that NPS's financial house was not in order. And they bamboozled the taxpayers into supporting this referendum, played on people's heartstrings, and pulled out all the big guns and had, paying little kids to knock on doors and, you know, they sat his face, can't you help us? Won't you help us? Won't you please save us? And all along, the state is meeting with NPS over the fact that y'all not turning in financial reports that you're supposed to turn in. We're looking at penalizing you financially for these late reports. Just a host of issues that were happening that, had the community been aware of it, they would not have given them any money. They would not have given them that money, most likely. I feel real confident in saying, if all of the foolishness and drama that was going on in NPS had come out before the referendum vote, that referendum wouldn't have passed. So Tulsa finds himself in a situation where they are asking taxpayers to front a bill to be able to, create this referendum. To pass this referendum to give this money to the district. And come to find out, y'all got a problem. But another thing that emerged as a result of these conversations is that there has been some board members that want to research a proposed merger with Milwaukee Public Schools. This happened last night at a meeting. That the research which was being done had been kept private and quiet and under wraps. but that there was some board members privately investigating and floating the idea of possibly a um, a merger with MPS. The idea comes as the $60 million referendum to keep all the district's non-elementary schools will appear on the ballot in November, because I guess that's one of the things that they're saying is that um, they are having difficulty being able to maintain their system the way it currently is. Somebody texted me and said, um, first Glendale, then Milwaukee, now Wauwatosa. Is it only Milwaukee County schools that are having accounting problems? Milwaukee County is an arm of the state, so this is a long-term plan to take over all schools in Milwaukee County. Or they're asking the question, is this a long-term plan to take over all schools in Milwaukee County? I mean, it is disconcerting and it is unnerving that you would be having these kinds of issues at schools all across the county, in some cases, some school districts. So, what they had been talking about, with both districts reportedly observing reduced enrollment and birth rates. So, they're talking about, you know, they're losing kids. In a lot of cases, they're losing kids to choice and voucher schools, um, private schools, and people aren't having the number of children that they used to. You know, before you could see a family, 3, 4, 5, 7 kids. Now you're getting 1, 2, maybe 3 children. So birth rates are dropping. They're losing kids to other options. They were saying that Wauwatosa was discussing being absorbed, or that Wauwatosa School District would absorb some schools from Milwaukee Public Schools, an option that was reportedly put on the table last week. Now, that's interesting to see it worded that way, because when I first started hearing about it, it was a merger, if you will, not Wauwatosa absorbing some MPS schools. So, what does that mean? You know, because some of our schools have numbers, or, you know, if you take a MPS uh, elementary school with low numbers and merge it with a Wauwatosa school with low numbers, then one of those buildings needs to close because we don't need 2 school buildings. So what ends up happening? So this was a public board meeting. It was a special board meeting that was held on last night, and community members went to learn about legal opinions on the situations that they are facing. So a lot of people, you know, took to social media, started talking, trying to figure out exactly what was going on, why nobody else had really heard about the issues that were being faced by Tulsa School District, this special meeting being called, and how does this impact MPS? Because this now can become potentially a Milwaukee taxpayer conversation. The thing I think I find interesting is that there's always a painting and a labeling, if you will, of either mismanagement, incompetence, whatever you want to say about the Milwaukee Public School District. And people snub their nose, and a lot of parents do everything they can to do the great escape, to send their kids to other districts, to get them out of MPS. Not always fully appreciating the grass is not always greener on the other side. It might look greener, but then you get over there and you figure out it's artificial turf. It just looked pretty from the other side. So we'll see what this means, because the questions that were being posed on social media yesterday, you know, they talked about. So this means if anything like this were to move forward, a potential loss of jobs, loss of school buildings, children, you know, with a different kind of commute situation, Like, what does this mean? Someone even went so far as to talk about resources. Caller, I see you. I'll be right there. But what does this mean in terms of resources? Because we already know that there are public schools in the district, in Milwaukee Public School District, that are better resourced than other schools. And that some of this is by design. You will see high performing schools have better resources than underperforming schools in a lot of cases. But the question becomes, if those schools were better resourced, would they still be underperforming? I don't know. But everything from lunch food and options for people in these school buildings to opportunities that are created to staffing, because Rep Myers talks about it all the time. The ability for Milwaukee public school teachers to pick and choose which schools they will work at, and how many people choose not to work in schools on the north side of Milwaukee, in schools that are struggling academically, in schools that are struggling behaviorally. These places tend to be resourced differently. So if a Wauwatosa school district, if there was any kind of merger, people already gonna have their antennas up about how resources get allocated, what happens by way of funding, how are students treated and or handled across these districts. So it's one of those things that is frustrating. It's alarming. It caught a number of people off guard. I got to say that our girl, Angela Harris, who had posted a lot of information relative to what was going on yesterday, this sister's commitment to education across the board is just to be commended. Absolutely commended. Let me go to the phone line, though, and see what is on this caller's mind. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Hey, Michelle.
Good morning.
Morning, Devo. Hey,
Good morning.
this is nothing but a money grab. I mean, come on, let's call it what it is. The students that are in the Milwaukee schools, they're going to pick the cream of the crop schools. You know that already. They're not going to come over here and get Palmer Street School or any of those schools. And so the kids that end up going into this merger, they get the state dollars. Milwaukee's already screaming that we don't have no money. And my big question is this: do you know if they will also get some referendum dollars to go with those students?
Well, I mean, because like I said, they got their own referendum on the ballot in November. That may not go through given their current financial drama. So so then you ask the question, were a merger possible? What does that mean for even the dollars that we've approved on our side of this conversation? These are all unanswered questions at this point.
Well, at this point, I say hell to the no, because they just making Milwaukee another hoe. Like the rest of the state is doing, like the legislatures do us when we send them all that revenue and we only get 30 or 40% back. I mean, when are they gonna stop coming to the well? We ain't got nothing as it is. Our schools already in bad shape, and this merger is gonna put them in worse shape. So I mean, the MTEA, we got to get rid of them because they're orchestrating all of this. They got to go. Something's got to happen. We got to get them and those school board members that they hijacked the whole board and put on there, all those yes people. They got to go because ain't nothing happening for Milwaukee. You don't hear anything about improving Milwaukee or nothing. All they say is give us more money, give us more money. And now Wauwatosa steps up and say, hey, that's a big pot you got there. Can we have some of it? Let us get some of that. That's all I see. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I mean, and the comments that were just made were echoed in some of the social media posts that I was observing yesterday, as this news began to break and people started learning that the Tulsa School District had a couple of things going on. Number one, this $4 million unexpected budget issue, in addition to the dollars that they were seeking to try to keep their school district intact. And what they're saying they need by way of a referendum to be able to keep all 9 elementary schools open in their district. Without fail, this is just another example of how we don't get to take our eye off of education. People will think on one hand, oh, they got rid of the here in Milwaukee, they got rid of the superintendent, they got rid of the chief financial officer, they got rid of the guy that was, that basically became one of the biggest fall guys for the NPS problems in terms of their accounting practices and reporting. Even though all that's questionable, should that have fallen heavily on this man? Um, with all that happening, you know, people continue to be like, okay, well, they got a new search out looking for a new board. I'm sorry, superintendent. So that will resolve some of those issues. Caller, I see you. I'll be right there. That will resolve some of those issues. But this is the thing: the same people still operate the school board. The drama happened on their watch. The level of incompetency in some cases and lack of oversight in others, uh, it has to remain a concern because the school board is not going to hire anybody that's going to challenge them. They not. They're not going to hire anybody that's going to prioritize the students, faculty, and community. They're going to most likely hire somebody that's going to prioritize MTEA. Like, it's an uncomfortable moment. People don't like to hear it. Come on, Michelle, don't be against the unions. I'm not. I'm against nonsense. I'm against an unfair imbalance of power. When the man from the union that came to that school board meeting in Milwaukee Public Schools stood up, the Hispanic brother, Latino brother, stood up at the mic and told the school board, y'all answer to us as union members. And y'all better do X, Y, and Z. Like, you could see the lay people in the room who are not members of unions looking like, wait, what did he just say out loud? What did he just say? And there was applause when he got done, leveling his threat. And it was a number of people that wanted to go snatch his coattail and be like, hey, SA, that ain't how this work. The union don't own the school board. Y'all not the only people voting for who's behind is sitting up at that table. But that's what he felt empowered to say in all of his ignorance. But let me be clear, to a degree, in his truth. He just was ignorant and said it out loud. But the truth is, they are beholden to the unions. They fundraise for them. They help knock doors for them. They help get their signatures. They help get them elected. So if I'm doing all that for you, you don't believe you beholden to me? I'm telling you, and I say it all the time. Amy Miziako walk around central office and over there during them board meetings like she run the whole dang city. That black child that's sitting there as the president or whatever her role is, ED of MTEA, that looks like, and I could be wrong, and I'm gonna be the first to say I could be wrong, but that looks like just a figurehead. That Amy is still calling a whole bunch of the shots over there. So to the concern raised by the caller about how any of the stuff that's going on in Tulsa impacts MPS already got a mess on his hands. And the idea that we absorb somebody else or we do something to assist somebody else, it's irritating to people right now because our own house is raggedy. Let me go to the phone line. Hey, caller, what's happening?
Greetings. How you doing, Michelle?
Good morning, Brother Sher.
I don't know if Carvey is in there.
Yeah, he here.
Hey, what's up, young bro? And listeners, I would be remiss if I didn't click out on the way that I definitely miss our brother.
Sher, you got us on a headset or speaker?
Here, let me.
Because it's hard to hear
Is
you,
this
bro.
better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'll be remiss if I wouldn't say publicly. I definitely miss our brother Keon, and I'm actually reminded of how much I miss him because one of the things I enjoyed about him was his musical skills.
Mm,
And when I heard the DNC, particularly the Georgia delegate, play the Yin Yang song "Through the Window to the Wall,"
right.
to the sweat drip off my balls, make all those bees crawl, as the song that they play, it really lets me know what type of game that is going on. That people think, oh, that was popping, but it's a thing that people would think about as political correctness, but then others, particularly Roger Stone of the Trump administration and some others, don't believe in political correctness, and it seems like that's the state we at to remove the morality. But I want to actually interject on something who was talking about Cornel West, which I'm not necessarily his supporter, but since you start off with education, I think the listeners have to look at the history of what Attorney Lloyd Bobby did when he fought to desegregate the schools and how long it took to win that Supreme Court case against the white teachers union for them, even though he had evidence that they kept bringing out all these other things, how it wasn't what people knew it was. And then even after he gets a Supreme Court win, and I think this is when we do ourselves a disservice because we be popping our collars, like look at what we did, that they, even though the federal Supreme Court doesn't have an appeal process, so when you lose in the Supreme Court, that's it. But somehow the white union was able to prolong for years. So you're talking about starting the case in the early 70s and it not being resolved to the late 80s. You win in the late 80s in the Supreme Court, but it's still lingering where they're not taking any action to desegregate until the 80s. And then when you look at the school systems that one of your, I think you made a comment that somebody said this looks like a whole system-wide thing. All these schools having these issues? That's exactly what happened. Is that then the suburban schools jumped in on the whole battle on integration on the schools, and so it pushes it up into the 90s. And so when we look at how a white child could be sitting in a felon school next to a black child sitting in a felon school, and a white child grades could actually be better than the black child, we see that they have some special type of engineering going on with these processes, particularly that when black people operate things, you have a situation where you shut that down. You can't just get rid of the individuals. You just got to shut the whole institution down. Or OIC, SDC, But when white people have errors, those are just errors. Those are not criminal or what have you. And I go back to DNC and this political correctness of so many songs people can choose from. Again, that's why I love Keon, because he just had this wonderful musical list based upon the population that was listening, is that we need to really look at when we talk about independent candidates or independent bodies. This is something I would ask you to consider, is that when we look at with the Mississippi Democratic Freedom Party as a delegate, and what she brought to the Democratic Party, the party of the races. And now I see a whole bunch of articles about her now, connecting her to what's going on with the vice president's amazing push and run. But then you have right after that, because we got to recognize the history of our people, of the movement of the Children March and the success of the Civil Rights Movement with Children Marching, and then the March on Washington and Freedom. And I think we need to change our language and stop talking about the March on Washington. That's not what it was. It was called the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. That's the name. When we say the full name and our children hear the full name, it gives a different context than this people marching. It was the March for Jobs and Freedom. So you have that. Then you have the assassination of King, and then Gregory jumps into the presidential race. So I'm about to mention all these people didn't have a chance in hell to win the presidency, but because they ran, it added something to the dynamic of the party. So then you have Dick Gregory run, which he, I'm sorry, I hear the music.
Yeah, and it's hard to hear you too, Cheryl. I'm not sure what was happening, but I know I was able to catch most of it. So, but yeah, did you want to hold through the break or are you good?
I hold you to break out because it's like four other candidates that's ran as a king.
All right, hang on. Let me take a
I'll
break.
try to move slower. Yeah.
Okay, no. It's like I said, it's something with the sound. It still sounds muffled. But let's see if we can get it figured out. Michelle Bryant, WNOV 860 AM 106.5 FM. Let me take a quick break, y'all. We'll be right back.
You've been missing your favorite shows. At Xavier Fox Media and Events, my co-host and I produce a reality talk show that consists of real, intense, intriguing, and informative conversation. We talk about dating and relationships, sex, physical and mental health, self-care.
I was bringing up something to consider about independent candidates, and I started with 64 with Fannie Lou Hamer coming in as the Mississippi Freedom Party delegate, busting up the Democratic Party to bring equity and justice within the party when there was none. Later on, after the March on Washington, then the people at that time thought that change was going to come so fast from the Children March to the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Then King is assassinated. Dick Gregory put his run as a write-in candidate for president, which made him the first actual candidate that was actually in the running for president as a write-in, because everybody else comes in as a primary until Obama. And so he's in as a write-in, bringing in more college and the younger people into the party, even though he wasn't part of the Democratic Party, he was independent. This got more young people involved in the political system, which draw more into the Democratic Party. Then you have Shirley Chisholm, who comes in. The same situation. She didn't have a chance of winning, but she brought in the dynamic of the power of women. We got another connection of the Caribbean islands, because we got an islander that was pushing for the presidency or bringing into the debate, fighting that independent individuals or people that's not looked at as the top of the party have the ability to debate, because that's very important that we see these discussions amongst different individuals that say that I would like to seek the office of the presidency. So her run was very important. And even with her run, it was Governor Wallace, the segregationist, candidate, who in Wauwatosa, he said that Milwaukee, if he had to leave his state, which again is a racist state, that he would move to the south side of Milwaukee. That's telling a lot. That you wouldn't go to some other state, you go to Milwaukee. If you had to leave a state where racism is supported by you people. So their party started supporting Shirley Chisholm, which I think the series, the movie, the biopic kind of showed her that dynamic. And it was a little more complicated than what I'm saying in relationship, because it was some type of genuine relationship that Miss Chisholm actually expressed between those two. But they pushed it, which actually affected her numbers, where these races was supporting Shirley. So now it's like, okay, is she down with racists and segregationists now? So that was a game played even back then. And then you have Jesse Jackson run in 84 and 88. We're bringing all types of people with the Rainbow Coalition. And that's some of my earliest memories of my family engaged and seeing Jesse for his run, going to one of those conventions. Speeches, not conventions, but speeches. But you have him running and bring that to the party. You have Al Sharpton run that brings a whole different. My oldest children got interested in looking at the debates because Al Sharpton was killing in the debates with common sense. And so what I would say with Cornel West would be something you actually mentioned yesterday would be the ethical of how you can chew gum and walk at the same time. You can actually speak against the killing of Israelis, but at the same time say, we can't be killing men, women, and children, Palestinians. That moral issue is what Cornel West has been on for the longest, even though I have issues with some of the things he's done and do, but I know that's the piece that we always talk about, the moral imperative, what have you. So all of these independent candidates have something to bring to the discussion. And something going back to wrap this all up to Keon and it's something that I think I first presented on the Man Show when we were doing the Man Show, is that it's our people who fight for justice, win or lose, that lay down the foundation which this country pops its own collar saying that this is the best and the most freest country in the world. It's our fights for liberation and freedom. Since we got here fighting in the courts to change laws, to change the behavior of people, it's our fights that is making these systems better or more palatable, depending on which way you look at it. So I just want you to consider that for those independent candidates. And I got to say lastly is that Trump wouldn't have even existed without an Obama presidency. And so we do need to prepare ourselves that if the vice president wins, that you couldn't even buy bullets or guns when Obama was in the presidency. They were all sold in the country. They got more guns than people. How all the bullets are sold out almost everywhere, and you can't find a gun. You could not just you couldn't find a gun. You couldn't get a BB gun or a CO2 cartridge when Obama was in the presidency. You can find none of that stuff.
Okay, I got you, bruh. And let me just say thank you for the call. Say a couple of things because I got a guest waiting. I want to get her in, but I just number one want to remind people, Donald Trump, while Barack Obama certainly is a catalyst for people being willing to accept a Donald Trump. Trump had actually toyed with running in 12. He had actually toyed with running in 04. He's been, you can go back and find tons of old interviews where people were, because people were always hyping his fake business acumen as a quality for being president. So Barack Obama and, the hatred that, a lot of people had because this black man ascended to the presidency certainly created fertile soil for Trump to, to come on in. But this dude had always been in the background easily since 04, toying and playing with, should I run for president? Should I run for president? So that's one thing. The other thing that I will say real quickly is that I certainly understand the value of an independent candidate. That's why, as I said yesterday, when I looked at the platforms, not a lot of light in between some of the positions Cornell has talked about and some of the things that's being done right now in a Biden-Harris administration. But the thing becomes, when do you figure out how to leverage, either the relationships that you have with folks that support you to get things on the platform of those candidates that will help the people that believe in the issues that you believe in. And at what point do you make a decision? I need to do that. We are at that hour. Like Cornell sitting on the sidelines right now and still trying to be in the race, to me, is pointless unless you are going to the table with Kamala to negotiate certain things that are not in her platform that you want to see be put there. But just to be there and post up and talk about it, and Kamala could on her own look at his platform and say, you know what, we're not doing this. We're going to throw this in to appease some of his supporters. I'm just saying, there's a time and a place to be strategic. And I think that we are at that time, considering we are now about 69 days away from the election. We are there. The other thing I will say, while I was surprised at the song selection that Little John sang when, he came into the DNC hall, one of the things I'm going to keep saying is, while we can have respectability politics, while we can have politically correct things that we need to do, there's a whole demographic of people that don't adhere to none of that. Those people are going to need to be engaged this time. Now, I'm not saying lower your standards, and I'm not saying get out of pocket and do things that's disrespectful, but the same thing when people raised hell or had something sideways to say about Megan Thee Stallion being on the stage with Kamala Harris, you gonna need the Megan Thee Stallion listeners to come vote, because these are people that may traditionally not be voting. And when people talk about I can't leave nobody on the field, I can't leave nobody on the field. And so our aversion sometimes to being offended, we got to figure out how to deal with that. Because as somebody who has worked with troubled kids, and worked in difficult environments with parents that, by all accounts, like they janky. The way they live their life is janky, is foul in some cases. As a social worker or a person that's gone in, I've had to deal with the curse words and the this and the that to get through to people, let them express themselves, and then course correct. So for me, I don't get bent out of shape because people don't always come in a way that I think I agree with. I need you to come. It almost reminds me of the way, you begin to see certain things happening in churches. I just need you to come. Then I can work on, what we need to do to correct some of the stuff that we see. There will be people that will tell you that was at the convention that when Lil Jon came in, it was something that changed the mood. People didn't use the inappropriate language that was in the lyrics of that song and some of them folks singing it didn't even know what all them lyrics was. But by the same token, we sing a national anthem in this country that glorifies slavery. So it's gonna happen. We just have to figure out how to make, things work for us and to get what we need. But the other thing, I had an argument with somebody the other day, well, not an argument, but a spirited back and forth, the other day. And I was like, look, I don't tote the Bible and tout the Bible and quote the Bible like a whole lot of people do. But I know that because somebody was a prostitute, they wasn't left out the conversation. I know because somebody was a criminal or a thief, they weren't left out the conversation. People were encouraged to be among everybody, not just those that come to us correctly. And if we are ever going to flip some of the stuff we see going on in our communities, we got to be able to deal with these people. Like people say all the time, meet folks where they are. And I'm of that ilk. Carvey, can we get Nina in? I'm of that ilk. So on one hand, I agree. I was like, no, they not playing, to the window, to the wall. That song always has tripped me out. But I would be lying if I tell you that the beat wasn't so catchy. I understand how people move to it. And we do what we do all the time. We compartmentalize. We keep the things that we want and we get rid of the things that we don't. People do it all the time. We keep what we want and we discard what we can't use or what is offensive to us. But there were people that were paying attention to that convention or went back and looked at the convention because a Little John was there. And even, I know them seats is horrible on a sister. Nina trying to get in his seat. I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm in a different chair. I struggle with these. Look, we do it every time, but I'm going to bring Nina up in just one sec. But so I just wanted to say that because when people went back and heard, wait, the Central Park 5, some of the bros was there or Lil Jon was there because it was people that didn't watch the DNC of a certain demographic. I'm not watching that. Bunch of white folks talk. I'm not watching that. And then somebody was like chit-chatting on social media or they showed the clip and it was like, Lil Jon was there. Wait a minute. And went back, pulled it up, and then maybe even stayed longer than his performance. Because there was room under the tent for Lil Jon. Challenging lyrics and all. But I ain't gonna lie to you that I have not danced to From the Window to the Wall, the radio version. I ain't gonna lie to you. I would love to be that chick that, oh my God, I cannot be one who participates. That's like me telling y'all, I don't say the N word. I have to work on that and I struggle with that all the time because I grew up around that. So everything is a work in progress. But if you're going to reach people, you got to mess with people where they are. You got to figure out how to bring them along. You know, we're talking about Black Business Month, and we got none other than the beautiful Miss Nina Johnson in studio with us. How you doing today, sis?
I'm doing good.
You working that shirt? I need that shirt, man.
Thank
Oh my God, those colors are stunning on you today.
Thank you for sharing.
But you know, I'm gonna kind of tie my conversation into the purpose that you're here, which is Black Business Month.
Right.
August is Black Business Month,
Yes,
and we're almost at the end. So I'm glad we were able to get this conversation in. But you know, when we talk to people about starting businesses and buying homes and all kinds of things, we would love for people to come to the door with a 740 credit score, and you know, you got $20,000 saved up to go towards a home purchase. But oftentimes we are seeing programs that are saying we got to meet people where they are in terms of the credit score, in terms of, you know, business experience. And we say all the time, just come and we'll figure it out. And so that's kind of where I am with the whole Lil John thing at the DNC. Just come,
right,
and we can figure this piece out. So let me welcome you, first of all. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good this morning. It's so good to see everybody today. And I'm looking forward to today's conversation because it's some good information that I just want to make sure your listeners are aware of.
Well, I am ecstatic. I had to go back because being a person who appreciates history, I kept trying to figure out, because Debo has his little calendar. Today is National Ice Cream Day. Today is White T-Shirt Day.
Oh,
and look, and I'm like, I'm not saying that. I'm not doing that. But you think about the origins of these things, and it almost reminds me of the conversation about Carter G. Woodson, how we start Black History or Negro History Week. It evolves into a month, and then, you know, the celebrations that we observe today. So I went back and I pulled some data on the history of Black Business Month. So do you know it, or because I can let you do it, or I don't need to?
Go right ahead.
Okay. So I went back and tried to figure out how this whole thing gets started. And I found that the history of Black Business Month can be traced back more than 20 years ago to the year 2004, when an engineering entrepreneur, Frederick Jordan, partnered with the president and executive editor of a scholarly publication called E-Access Corp. The guy's name was William Templeton, and they started an annual event. The intention of the pair was to, quote, drive the policy agenda affecting 2.6 million African-American businesses in order to highlight and empower Black business owners all over, especially given the unique challenges faced by minority business owners. This stemmed from Jordan's own personal experience of the struggle to gain financial backing and funding when he began his own firm in San Francisco back in 1969. And so the one thing that they did, though, which I appreciated, is they talked about in 1915, the establishment of the National Negro Business League, which spread all over the country. At one point in 34 states, and by 2002, 1.2 million of the United States, 23 million Black-owned businesses, bringing in over $150 billion in revenue. But the timeline that they created, 1898, Black people begin to own their own insurance companies. The North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance Company is established and quickly becomes one of the oldest and most prominent Black-owned insurance companies in the U.S. 1915, the first Black National Business League is founded. 1920s, Black Wall Street. And then we skip, just for time purposes, 1980s, Black business brings in billions. Talk about Reginald Lewis, is the first African-American to build a $1 billion company, TLC International Holding. 2004, you get Black Business Month is established. And, you know, as they say, the rest becomes history.
Yes.
But this is still really in its infancy when we talk about the idea of promoting, acknowledging, figuring out how to aid and assist Black business. So this is where you come in.
Yes, it is.
So tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing and let people know which organization you're with.
So I'm with U.S. Bank, and I know the last time I was on the show, I talked about the access commitment, which is $100 billion that the bank committed to Black and Brown communities specifically, and they started with the Black community right here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, because this is where most of the need was most prevalent. So looking at it from a percentage base, Milwaukee had the highest percentage of need as it pertains to access to business, access to home ownership, access to community development and capital resources, access to wealth. All those things were key to what the commitment in that $100 billion stood for. That was not a one and done. I just hosted the CEO here in Milwaukee at the Baird Center last Friday.
Okay.
And took him to some community branches so he can see how fully immersed we are in our community. And it's a real tangible thing that our executive managing committee now has their eyes on. So understanding that the money is being devoted to programming, but then also people. So we literally have people that we've hired and created an access team. And one of the access leaders, I was just with her yesterday. She flew in from North Carolina. She runs our business access program nationally.
Okay.
And we just hired a business access Hispanic Latina who is going to focus on Spanish speaking. We hired the first one for the Black community, who is very active in supporting what we're trying to do in the Black community. But now we just hired another young lady that I just got a chance to meet yesterday to support the Hispanic Latino population as well. So we're tangibly trying to make sure that the population that we talk about is represented within the company. So when we know that people are in need, they can speak in their native language about it. They can talk about it from a product standpoint. If there's opportunity to help coach up a business owner, that's also a part of the experience. The person that I talked about for the Black community as it pertains to small business is Mikai Brown. She's actually based out of Chicago, but she covers Chicago and Milwaukee. The young lady that I just talked about in the Hispanic Latino population, she's based out of Milwaukee, but she covers Milwaukee and Chicago. So we're trying to really bookend Chicago and Milwaukee to provide that type of tangible resource on top of what we already offer with a small business team and an SBS representative right here in Milwaukee. So you've got you've got 3 layers of small business support working in tandem with our CDFI partners, so our community development financial institution partners, our organizations that we fund. So if there's a credit bureau issue, if there is a issue in access to capital, for example, and they're not ready for the bank yet, we partner them with the CDFI, and the CDFI can get that money to them, like the Wisconsin Women Business Initiative Corporation, the Wisconsin Business Development,
And tell people what CDFI stands for.
Community Development Financial Institutions. Those are organizations that banks fund so that the dollars can get to the communities in need before in this case, business owner is bankable. So it's not like a no, it's just a not now. And that not now is now partnered with the business access advisors that US Bank is hired to help nationally support growth and development in underrepresented communities.
So let me just for a second, just stay there, because the not a no, but a not now. Do we have any data yet that helps us understand how long it can take some of the businesses that come in with certain things that they need to address, they need to, get in order before they become bankable? Do we have any data that helps us understand if they do get connected to these CDFIs, they do get this counseling, they do get the additional support and resources, how long it takes these people or these businesses to become a bankable situation?
It depends on the individual business owner. It can be as short as 6 months to 2 years, depending on their financial situation.
Okay.
Everybody's situation is different.
Right.
But the good thing that I would want to address is something that it happened this week. So the timing is perfect. US Bank actually did a survey of small business owners last spring between April and May to talk about what they're most in need of, to talk about where they're, finding opportunities and where they need some support. And it's interesting to see that some of those statistics, which are now published, it's actually something that you can find on social media, I believe, and also on our
What's
usbank.com
it called?
website. It's a small business survey,
Okay.
and they identified key characteristics in small businesses that are seen right now, and it's surprising to see some of the outcomes that all align with access to labor. There's an issue with labor in small businesses that is prevalent right now because the business owners are contending with competition. They're contending with staffing limitations because they need some help in just supporting the economic situation and the rising costs of inflation. So within that statistical analysis, they found that there's a common characteristic in all of the small businesses. The majority of them, and it was over 1,000 that were interviewed, with about 300 who were targeted as understanding the key essence of what it is to run a Black business, to run a Hispanic business. In those characteristics, they all found that there's a labor situation that we're contending with in the small business sector.
You know what? Okay, so that's going to feed into a question. I'm going to ask it on the other side of the break. Give me one moment just to go pay some bills on our own end so we can keep our own Black business open. Michelle Bryant, WNOV, 860 AM, 106.5 FM. Family, I'm talking to Nina Johnson, Miss Nina Johnson. Tell them what your title is.
Senior Vice President, Head of Branch
See,
Banking.
she's shy. I say it all the time.
That's so funny.
We'll be right back, y'all. All right, family. What you say, Garvey? So I got Debo. Was you doing it too? Was you checking me too, Garvey? Like, oh, that's Sue. See, I got to bring you in on the private joke later. But Nina and I just in the break, just going like, what about this? And what about this? And Debo was like, could you come back? Could you let the listeners in on the conversation? We in our second loop now. I'm like, okay, we coming back. I tell people all the time, it's the conversations in between the show breaks that sometimes can be the most crazy and most interesting. But so before we went to the break, just talking about like the different ways that people get the information, understand what the products are, and what we need to do to be prepared. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to pivot for a second because of some of the stuff that was said during the break. Because one of the things that I said to you, and I always try to do that with folks that are on the show, let me know if there are things that we want to make sure that we are hitting that I may not ask or address. And I appreciate it so much when you said, like, first thing out the gate, I need for people to understand that there are ways to avoid some of the high interest products that they may seek to be able to help them during their business or trying to do business. What do you mean by that?
So when you are a business owner and you're so busy, now I talked about the staffing piece.
Right.
If you don't have enough people to help get your business moving or keep your business moving in the right direction, then you don't have a lot of time left many times as a business owner to do the research on the best product and the best rate and the best, options for your business to grow. And that's where the business access advisor would work with the business owner to say, hey, you don't have to pay this for this service. For example, payments, which is your credit card machine that you use to transact business. People pay you, they put their card in the machine and pay their debt using a credit card for your goods and services. In those cases, you want to make sure that the rate for example, the merchant services that you're paying for are aligned with industry standard. Now, for example, at US Bank,
aren't they just all the same?
No, they're not. And see, US Bank owns a payments program. It's called Elevon. They own a whole payments division. So, and in fact, you may work with an organization that's saying, okay, I can give you a payments machine, but it could potentially be a Elevon US Bank machine that's just private labeled. It's labeled as the business that's selling it to you, but it's really us.
Okay.
So just knowing that kind of information is key. Knowledge is power. We always say it. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Why pay, an increased price on something when it could be discounted and or a lower rate because you have awareness of other products that are out there. Same thing with credit cards. We own a credit card division, so you could literally have a business card, a payments machine, your checking account. You could have all of that bundled together without having to leave your bank from for the work that you need done to help your business grow and also become a sustainable solution for the community. But you do have to do your homework. You want to compare pricing, and I'm not just saying, oh, all US Bank. I'm just saying comparison shop, just like you do anything else.
People, number one, are just so anxious to get up and running,
right,
that I don't slow down to do that. And I'm kind of smiling because I'm like, if I'm saving money over here, maybe I got money for staffing, where if sometimes the staffing, problems with organizations is that right now I can't afford to pay nobody. I'm not paying myself. We got family enlisted that are doing this to help us get the business off the ground.
Right.
So I know that there are a lot of people that struggle with this. But back to that labor piece for just a second and the staffing. I guess I'm kind of interested just to dig just a little bit deeper. So what did the question yield? I mean, are people saying that I can't afford the staffing? Are people saying that the staffing is not out there? like, or the staffing is not quality. So, I mean, I don't keep them. Turnover is high. Did you get an idea of what the staffing issues were?
I didn't see the details behind the cumulative totals,
Okay.
but I do know that the competitive pricing, the competitive rate of what you're hiring somebody to do is a part of that that outcome.
Could see that.
And then also, with the cost of living rising, your price of, how much you're able to pay somebody to work for you may not equal what the cost of living is, because the cost of living is going up so quickly. So that's the other part of it is, is there some connection between the cost of living versus what you're able to pay somebody?
So let me ask you this real
Mhm.
quick, since it's a staffing
Sure.
a staffing conversation. Somebody just sent me something. They said, "Ask the Queen, why is it not more Black male financial officers nor bankers in particular in Milwaukee?" Hang on, where'd the question go? In Milwaukee or in Wisconsin. So, as somebody who works in the industry, when we
Mhm.
just talk about representation and staffing, what do you see landscape wise in terms of Black males in the field? Just since this question has been posed.
That's funny because my husband's a Black male in finance.
Yes.
But it's one of those things where you control what you can control. Like for me, I don't see a large pool of African American men applying for positions in the financial sector in my market, in my pool of representation. So I'm responsible for branch banking. If I have an opportunity to hire somebody who is diverse, and diverse to me is across the whole landscape, I'm going to take a close look to see, if they are going to be, somebody that we could either hire in my area or another area of the bank, because I know that representation is still a work in progress. And I also say, within the banking industry, the reason why I love banking is because I've done so many different things that don't even connect with each other. So just because I apply for one position doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only position available in the bank. And so if somebody is, for example, if there's an African American man out there who has the qualifications to apply for a position, don't just stick with that one position. Throw your entire net out there and go through, the experience of applying for multiple positions in different areas that have your transferable skills aligned with all of those positions. Don't just stick with a one track, job family in banking, because there's tons of opportunities where for example, if you have a business background, like if you have a degree in business banking, or excuse me, in business, you can take that business degree into multiple areas of banking. It doesn't have to be just in retail. It can be in business banking. It can be in payments. It can be in card. It can be in wealth. You don't have to have, a finance degree to work in the wealth department. So sometimes we limit ourselves. That's a part of it, but just know that there's leaders like me, at least, that will just try to make sure that there's an audience, a diverse audience in multiple business lines in the banking sector, so that your opportunities are made known to those who are trying to really create a more diverse leadership pool.
And I mean, it makes me think of Dolores Sims, who just recently passed
Yes,
away.
Misty.
And she would talk about like when she started, and people
Yeah.
would try to like kind of thwart her, or stay here, stay
Mhm.
put, don't worry about trying to get this skill, learn this. And she moved around people, like, no, I'm getting ready to learn all I can learn, and ultimately makes the correct moves, parlays that into another opportunity, another door gets opened until ultimately you get legacy. But I thought that was interesting, because we know that can sometimes be barriers
Right.
put in place to access even within organizations. And so that idea that you find mentors, you find people that will help you navigate if there are anything going on in the workplace that prevents you from moving, that you find folks that are moving.
Right.
And then say, how'd you do that? And what can I do? I at least would offer that up.
Yeah, that's one of the gifts of the role that I'm in is, I'm responsible for over I would say 500 or so people. And, that's inside the bank. There's also some amazing leaders that are in community that I've had the honor of mentoring, and I have those conversations like, okay, you ready to move? Show me the work you're doing on yourself and show me what you're going to do to get beyond the barriers we know are there. It may be a barrier, but to me, that's an opportunity. Don't let anything stop you from getting what you need to get, whether it's training, whether it's access to relationship. You go and introduce yourself, have a virtual coffee with leaders of areas that you really want to, be in one day. Like if there's a position in wealth, I mentioned wealth management. If you want to go into wealth management, which I keep talking about wealth because we need more representation in wealth as people of color. If you need to learn a skill set or you aspire to go into the wealth department of whatever financial institution that you're in, you need to reach out to that leader and say, hey, I'd love to have a virtual coffee with you. You're not taking any time out of their day to go anywhere to sit down and have a dinner or anything like that. All you're doing is saying, I'd love to talk to you about your journey. So people love to talk about themselves. You know what I'm saying?
They do.
And I mean,
Except
you learn
me, I'm
so much.
honest,
Okay, sure, Michelle. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. But it is such a opportunity for our community to get beyond what we assume is a barrier to learning something new, getting to know a new person, having a new relationship with a leader who could potentially be your sponsor, which is a whole different thing than a mentor. And I'll share this one last thing.
Please.
One of the young ladies I just had the honor of mentoring this year just got a promotion this week. And I'm just like, and the way that happened was, she kept talking about, but I got this experience in X. And I'm like, okay, but why aren't you doing X? You're doing this for me. Why aren't you doing that? So that became available. I heard about it. And through that conversation, she applied and got the job right away. They were like, oh my goodness, I didn't even know she was out there. That's the difference between assuming that there's something of a barrier out there and just working with people who may not even realize that you're interested in moving forward. You have to make yourself be known.
And I'm just going to say one thing before two things before we continue the conversation. Number one, while you're talking, State Representative Lakeisha Myers pops into my mind. And the reason why I say that, so she's in education, so totally different field, but the mentality and the concept was the same. I watched her, say, okay, I came in with this license, but now I'm about to get my special ed license, and now I'm about to get this, and then I'm going to put myself in position to be a superintendent. So she did the principal track, then she did the superintendent, because she was like, I want to be able to move across departments and areas, and I got to have the skill sets to do that. Right. So when it seemed like she had downtime, she was actually somewhere hobbled away studying and doing whatever it be. So I know they went through like a bunch of transitions, a bunch of people lost their job, but because she was a special ed certified teacher, she didn't lose her job. Or the demand is high. So that constantly thinking about how do I make my next move and position, because a lot of us, myself, I didn't do a lot of additional education. I picked up a lot of different skills because some of the stuff I need that I like to do didn't require necessarily additional education, but it required different specialized training. Right. So I'm always like, okay, I pick up this skill, I learn this. So I'm thinking about that when you're talking about the ability to make these moves. Yeah. But you said something that I want to just tap into real quick before we continue. This whole piece about we need more people represented in wealth management. Forgive my ignorance, but what is the wealth management industry in relationship to banking? What are we talking about?
Thank you for saying that. So at US Bank, we have a wealth management department. That's your investments. That's 401ks, CD, money markets, mutual funds, stocks, all of those things that align with investments. And we have a wealth division, which is actually Wisconsin is the number one wealth division as it pertains to assets under management in the entire country. So
So would
There's
business owners be paying attention to this wealth management piece as well, or just
businesses,
private customers?
both.
Okay.
Both, because a business owner, they have their financial needs individually before they become a business owner, so they want sustainability. They also probably have some opportunity to provide some wealth programs for their employees as well. So from that perspective, just being connected to our wealth department is key. And I know I talked to somebody recently and they were like, I didn't even know you all offered a wealth program at US Bank. Like, we got a whole wealth division and you don't even have to go far. If you're at, the WNOV here on Capitol, we got a Midtown branch where a wealth person can meet you at Midtown. So you don't have to go far. We just need to know that you're coming. You just go on the website and set up your appointment. But there's certain things like that, which are important. And so, to the person who called me queen, which I know, if it's anybody that I know who that is. If that individual is interested in understanding more about how to get into banking and they have a financial background, take a look at our wealth program. Also, when we talk about small business, what's to stop you from becoming a advisor or advisory arm for a organization, and starting your own investment firm? Thinking of it from that perspective and not putting boundaries on ourselves is important, as well as the people. If you don't see the position in a corporate structure, create your own destiny. How do you do that? Start your own business.
Okay, so you're making me smile.
Okay.
But on the wealth management piece, real quick, and this sounds so crazy and off the grid, but I'm gonna throw this into the mix as well. So I'm yesterday scrolling through, reading different stuff. Article pops up. So there is a brother in the rap industry by the name of Gucci Mane. Okay, Gucci Mane goes to jail in 2017 on a weapons violation. He's fairly successful.
Mm-hmm.
So while he's gone, he leaves the money that he has, $3 million, with his wife, so she can take care of herself while he's gone.
Okay.
So I'm sure he's like, don't, if you don't have to use it all, don't use it all, but take care of yourself. When he's released, this sister has taken the 3 million and turned it into 9 million. She's a college graduate, talks about investments, talks about some of the companies and stuff that they had created and how she ended up investing those resources. So that meant when you were talking, and I was like, do businesses think about wealth management? What do I do? Because, we always hear, let your money work for you.
That's right.
Some people I know are saying, well, it's all I could do to keep the doors open. So how do I have time to peel off any, excess dollars to talk about investments? So that's one thing I think that a lot of people would be trying to figure out in terms of small businesses or just Black businesses, period. But the other thing that I wanted you to touch on, we talked about during the break, was the management of capital. And that you have like software programs and different things that can assist people with that. So
Right.
Can you speak to that for a moment?
Right. So you know what? I'm just going to mention this. So we have something called Cash Flow Manager.
Okay.
It's a free solution for, I believe, US Bank customers. If you go out to the US Bank website, and I think if you click on the wealth management tab, the Cash Flow Manager shows you where your financial situation is right now as it pertains to, how much you're saving, how much you're spending, how much you're, not setting aside when you should. All those things are part of the Cash Flow Manager experience. And that's the wealth piece. On the opposite side of that, when you talk about the tools that are available, that's where the Access Advisor would actually work with the business owner to say, hey, these are the tools that are available both in-house and outside of the bank. So they're not only keeping this to, here's the US Bank options, they're also saying, hey, this is a product that this SBA is offering. This is a product that the CDFI is offering, Community Development Financial Institutions. These are, all the things that are available based on your specific need. And that's the next level of support that I believe our industry needs to really make true impact in our communities. And that's why access is something that I continue to talk about, just because those are the individuals that are going to drill down to a granular level, based on the client and, in our case, the business owner's personal needs.
So, no, go ahead.
Oh, and then one other thing, we have so many scenarios where people have their heads down, they're working hard, and I always tell people, you know what, work smarter, not harder. You don't need to work that hard.
Right.
You got to have a life. And so that combination of working with your banker to look at your entire financial landscape as a business owner is something that you should do before you even start your business, really, because you don't want to spend your time, running in pace, in the same place, because you're so busy trying to pump out those donuts or whatever you're trying to do, not realizing that, okay, you know what, if I invest, a little money here, I can have a machine to do that for me, so I can, have the weekends with my family. That's the kind of strategic, planning that, I aspire our businesses to experience. And that's where your banker can help you kind of be a little bit more strategic in how you either launch
And
and
I don't
maintain
think
your
that
business.
people have traditionally, and I hate to kind of put, like black people in that umbrella or under that umbrella, but I don't think that people have traditionally thought about my banking relationship like that. That there's somebody that is saying, look, Michelle, you can actually get a 3D printer to do X, Y, and Z. So that cuts down on labor costs, labor time, You can get more product out. Like, I don't know that people think about that there's somebody helping me to strategize best way to even execute what it is that I'm doing.
Right. That's right.
Okay, you making me smile. Let me take one quick break. We will come back, wrap up the conversation. Make sure people get information on how to get connected if they don't have a banking relationship, because that's the other piece. I get so concerned for my people because we don't have them.
I don't know how
we
you do
we
that.
still got cash in the coffee can at the house, trying to run our business. I'll be right there. Was I talking about you, Debo? I'll be right back, y'all. I'm just serious. My mic is on. Oh my God. I'm so glad I didn't say nothing crazy. What you mean my mic is on? And you know I talk crazy. You know I talk crazy. Oh my God. Since you need to be fired. Anyway, so I'm not talking to you or Jermaine. All right, y'all. So I wrapped up my conversation with none other than Miss Nita Johnson over at U.S. Bank. What's the title again?
Senior Vice President, Head of Branch Banking.
I like saying that. I like hearing it. Let me say it that way. So a couple of things. So I want to make sure the last thing that making sure we did cover. If there are any additional products that business owners need to be aware of at U.S. Bank, or how do they get the information? What's the first step? And while I'm doing it, so I can have you incorporate all of it. Mm-hmm. Some people are already like they up and rolling. They actually are doing good. They are in the black in some cases. I can see opportunities for growth. I am bankable. Mm-hmm. At least I believe I am, or I already have an existing banking relationship. And there are other folks, they're either in the idea phase or they've started, but I still feel kind of mom and pop. I still feel kind of small, and I'm still trying to figure my way out. And I haven't established a banking relationship, and I haven't met with anybody. So what do these folks need to understand in terms of reaching out to you guys, and who should reach out?
Right. Thank you for the question. There's a couple different options depending on where you are in the life cycle of your business. If you are trying to prepare for starting, you're ideating, you're ready to just kind of put pen to paper and get something moving, I would strongly recommend reaching out to your Access partner. So if you go out to usbank.com/access, you'll learn all about the Access commitment, and you can drill down to the Access business pillar. Access business is exactly what I've been talking about today, and our branches can connect you, can set up appointments with you and an Access advisor depending on your need. That's the first layer, and that person can actually dig into whether or not you need to talk to a small business banker, which is for those who are up to, I believe, 2.5 million in revenue. Then you can go to, I know.
I can see some people like, that's small business.
That's small business. And then anything but above, up to, I believe, 5 million is our business banking relationship managers, and then we go to commercial banking. So there's different layers of support that can be provided to the business owners that are in need of some just review, because I think that's the other piece. You can be up and running and in the black, but do you need to pivot?
Right.
And just having that safe conversation with somebody who has options to share with the business owner is key. So I would say, starting with the business access advisors, the small business bankers that are in our branches, all those individuals together collectively can work on your specific need. The other thing too, as a business owner, I strongly recommend downloading and saving it as a favorite on your phone, the SBA.gov website. You have information at your fingertips for free. If you need to understand how to create a business plan, just bare necessity things just to get you off the ground, go out to the SBA.gov website. Keep that as a favorite because they always put some nuggets out there. We talked about being a lifelong learner. I'm the same way. I'm like, you know what? I don't have a degree in this, but I know a little something because I learned this from this certification. That's something that you want to do as a business owner, just to keep it, at your fingertips, so you'll know the latest and greatest things that are happening as it pertains to not only lending options and possibly grants, but also access to tools like balance sheet, information, creating business plans, all of those things. As a business owner, you'll need to be successful and sustainable.
So you just made me think real quick. There is some person who was doing an interview, and he's wealthy, and he said a number of his friends, family, different people see him, I got this business, I just need some startup capital and da 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 da. And he says that he says it's kind of jacked up. But instead of telling them no, because in most cases it's going to be a no, because the idea is not fleshed out well. He said, but instead of telling them no, I tell them, here's my card. Send me a copy of your business plan and we can talk. And he said he has probably only ever received 3 actual business plans. He said so because so many people, I don't know where to start with this.
Right.
I've never had to do this. So thank you for the SBA.gov, recommendation. But he literally said, like, yeah, I might. Yeah, and he said, and the people that came back, oh, what's his name said that at the business council.
I was like, that sounds familiar.
Who was the guest? Who was
Hill, Lamont Hill.
Yeah, Lamont Hill said that. I know I just heard that.
I was like, that sounds familiar. So when Dr. Lamont Hill said that, right away I thought, that's the difference between giving somebody a fish and teaching somebody how to fish.
Yep.
Now, what really I thought should have happened was, okay, I want to refer you to these resources. Now, put together your business plan and then come back to me. Now, you just gave him her tools to create it.
So not just go get it.
Yeah.
And you don't tell nobody how to go get it. Because clearly if they knew, they would have had it when they came to speak to you.
Thank you. That was a bootstrap moment for me. I was like,
I love it. Well, look, okay, so we said the access manager. So once again, tell people the website, usbank.com.
Yes.
/ access.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank
you
you,
always
Michelle.
are a wealth of information. You almost make it sound easy. No, it's not. It's not at all. But look, folks, if you want to grow your business, if you want to start a business, if you want help, to maintain your business and figure out, next moves, please take advantage of these opportunities. Folks are not in here talking for their health. This is not just about, I need to check a box, as my duties with my job. These are people that are genuinely committed to seeing our community thrive and to grow. So take advantage of it. Thank you so much. Sis, tell your husband I said, hey.
I will.
All right, family, I got to get out y'all way. Debo, appreciate you. Jarvell, talk to you. Did you say something? Because I'm not Debo. Talk crazy to me and see what happened. Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, family, I'll talk to y'all this afternoon. Peace. Yeah,